back, everybody. Today we're going over the pistol that you see in my hands right here and that you saw throughout the intro. This is the H&K USP45. Now this one's been on the block for a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But they're still in production. They're still out there. They're still being made. So I'm still doing reviews on them. But this particular pistol I've had in for a while, put a bunch of rounds through. I think I had like 28 minutes of actual shooting footage that I'm going to absolutely cut down and pare down for you guys. You guys won't see it all, but I have a ton of shooting footage with this. It's simply because it's just a gun I like to shoot a lot. So what we're going to do up next is sort of let the dogs take a look at it, of course, first. And then after that, we're going to get into the details of the pistol, sort of what makes this unique, the history of it a little bit, and at the end, we'll wrap it up with what I think of it overall. Getting into the details of the pistol, we'll sort of start down here at the mag and work our way forward to have some order to the review. So first off, to drop the magazine releases up here, which we'll get into a little bit later on, and it has 12 round magazines that do come with it, so that sort of is one of the advantages of it. This gun at the time, a 12 round 45 ACP with, of course, 12+1 capability with a round in the chamber. That was kind of a high capacity 45 back when this came around. Nowadays, there's, of course, guns that will give you a little bit more capacity, but it's still good by modern standards. So I should also note down here by the magwell that we do have these little cutouts in here, which I think Glock just used in their Gen 5, so it's made a comeback, but this was done back in the 90s, and it allows you to strip and rip a magazine should you get a double feed, and gives you a little bit more pulling force on there. Now, one of the cons of this gun, in my opinion, is the grip texture. The original grip texture there is a little bit slippery, so I put some Talon grip tape on there to make the gun sort of stick in your hand a little bit more. I do like that. So there are, of course, aftermarket accessories to do that, like we have here with the Talon, if it's a problem for you. So up here we have this is our decocker. So of course, if the pistol has the hammer back in the cock position, you can safely decock it. Now, they make a ton of different variations in terms of triggers for this gun. This, I believe, is the V3 with the decocker on the left side only. They also make, I think, the V4 with the decocker on the right side. And they also make an option that you can carry it cocked and locked and also decock it. They also make one that you can carry cocked and locked, I believe, but not decock it. And then they have the LEM version, which is sort of a double action only, but an improved double action only for folks that dig that. So there are definitely options out there in terms of the trigger. Since we're talking about the trigger, let's talk about this trigger in double action, single action. This one here has a lot of stacking, and it's not super smooth here on the H&K 45. It's one of the downsides of it. It breaks right at around 11 pounds on my scale. However, the single action is not bad at all. The reset's a little bit long by today's standard, but it is tactile and audible. And then you just have a little bit of play, come back to the rear, and it's decently crisp for a double action, single action gun. So not too mad about that. Mag release that we talked about earlier is located underneath the trigger. It is ambidextrous. There's two ways to activate it. Basically, you can do it with your trigger finger, like I am here, and it pops that mag out. You can also do it with your thumb, like that. Either way works. I tend to do it with my trigger finger. Not sure why. My hands are certainly big enough to reach either way, and we should actually point that out as well. But the grip on this is relatively large, so folks with real small hands, this one's probably not going to be super ergonomic for you. For me, I have large hands and it fits nicely in my hand. I'm able to reach all the controls, and even here with this slide lock, it's a nice large slide lock. So if you want to actually use it to chamber that round, it's got the serrations on there. There's really no way you're going to miss it. Easily sends the slide home with some authority. Up front here we do have the H&K USP proprietary rail, and I guess we should get into the history here on this pistol real quick. So this pistol was designed around the .40 caliber cartridge, which at the time in the early 90s when this was being designed, the .40 cal was breaking some pistols. Most of those were designed for 9mm, and the extra battery that the 40s were putting on there was causing some issues. So for instance, both like Glocks and SIGs would have some cracking here, usually on the slides at about 20 to 25,000 rounds. And H&K did a lot of things to sort of make sure that didn't happen in this particular pistol, which we'll get into here in just a second. But the history of it, the 40 was designed and actually released in 1993, and then the 9mm followed, and the 45 was the last one to come out, I believe, in 95. So I say that to say that this rail, which today is sort of outdated by our standards, was, you know, very normal and actually was very cool back then and innovative. So the standard of 1913 rails and Glock rails and stuff like that really hadn't come around at that point. So if we have, say, a modern weapon light here like the Streamlight TLR1, it's just not going to work on there. Even if you could get it out there, these little cross slots that we have on any of the modern guns, or most of the modern weapon lights rather, just won't fit on there. However, there is a solution. TLR3 made by Streamlight and the TLR4, which is the laser option, will work on there. They'll work even without this special USP adapter here. The problem is if you don't have the adapter, they can slide forward and slide back because there's nothing to stop it. But with the USP specific rail, mounted version like we have here, we'll tighten it down there, and what you'll see is that there's really no way for the light to move forward or backward because it's engaging with the front and the rear of that slide rail, or rather the light rail, accessory rail. So the TLR3, at least in my opinion, is probably the best option out there for it if you're going to use a USP and want a weapon mounted light. They make adapters for 1913 rails and stuff like that. The problem with that is it's going to drop the light down kind of far, and in terms of controls, it's just not as easy when it's down that far. So TLR3, it's not going to win any lumen contests, but it is a good proven light, and has a nice toggle switch here on the back. Press down on the left side for momentary, or up on the right side for momentary, and then up on the left side for constant. Of course, down on the right side for constant. And most of the holsters, if you're going to find a weapon light holster for this, are going to be for the TLR3 for that reason. So that is the accessory rail. The slide on the pistol is made of one piece of nitrocarburized steel and then machined down. It's finished with what H&K calls their hostile environment finish, which we would know today as a nitrided finish or a melanite finish or a nitrocarburized finish. It's going to give you good corrosion resistance, excellent corrosion resistance in fact, also good surface hardness and good wear resistance. So it is not a finish in the traditional sense, so you guys can see some wear up here on the front of the pistol, and the nitrocarburized finish is still under there because it's actually a treatment to the metal itself. So it goes into the metal and impregnates it. So even if you have wear, that surface hardness and corrosion resistance is still there. So that's certainly a good thing. The sights that come on the USP are not bad sights. Typically, they're not going to be tritium. However, some of the models will have that here in the US, but most don't due to the way the import laws work rather for tritium. But I replaced mine with the Trijicon HDs, some of my favorite sights for sure, as I'm sure some of you guys know. So back here on the rear, we have the good serrations there, and the little dots are not surrounded by anything to distract your eye, but in low light you will see the tritium coming out of there. And then up front we have that nice orange, or I believe they also make a yellow model currently, to draw your eye to it. And I really like it. They're fast, they're accurate, and they're just good sights overall. Good steel there. If you need to do one-handed manipulations on there, just good sights all in all. Disassembly of the pistol is pretty straightforward. Basically, you're going to make sure it's unloaded as always, like you would, and then I put my finger inside the trigger guard to sort of pull the slide back. And what you want to do is line up that little cutout there in the slide with the takedown lever or the slide release lever, and we're just going to pull that through like so. Let our slide come off, and take a look there on the inside of the frame. You guys will note there that it does have steel inserts, stainless steel, at the points where it's going to, I guess, be the highest wear with the slide. And all the little components in the back there are actually treated with a finish. I can't think of what the name of it is now, but it's from Dow Chemical. It's not the same as the nitrocarburizing, but it's going to give you similar corrosion resistance. So that way if you're out operating in really humid places or like ocean environments, you don't really have to worry about corrosion like you would with a lot of pistols. So that certainly is nice in there. Now onto the slide itself. We should mention this little beast right here. I mentioned that it was designed around 40 caliber and to take a lot of rounds without beating itself up like some of the other pistols were. And this recoil reduction system that you see here really is part of it. H&K claims that it's going to give you a 30% reduction in terms of the forces that actually are transmitted to the pistol, and 30% of course wear reduction in terms of the life of the parts. Now H&Ks are really about as durable as they get. I think they've earned that reputation, and This recoil reduction system certainly is part of it. Now they say it also decreases felt recoil to the shooter. Not sure about that. One thing about this pistol, although it is relatively large, it's not super heavy. So this pistol weighs 31 ounces. So compared to other pistols of its size, it's relatively lightweight, which is great if you're carrying it around all day. For shooting though, of course, weight is your friend in terms of recoil. So it's not the lightest recoiling pistol. It's not the heaviest recoiling pistol. It's somewhere in between there. But just pointing that out. The barrel itself has the nitride finish as well. It has a nice generous feed lip on there to eat hollow points. We've put plenty of them through there, and it's never had a single issue. It also has the polygonal rifling in there, so it's going to give you, in theory anyway, really good accuracy, very good ease of cleaning, and it's also going to give you a little bit more velocity than traditional rifling would due to the way the bullet it basically is caught up by the polygonal rifling going through. It's a little bit better seal. So you can look there inside the slide. One thing that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't expect of a pistol at this price point is that there are some chatter marks on the inside, but functionally it doesn't affect anything, of course. But otherwise, the fit and finish on the pistol is very, very good, particularly for a polymer gun. And reassembly is basically just the opposite of the way we took it apart. Has a Browning type lockup system, as you'd expect. It's probably the most proven one at this point out there on the planet, or at least one of them anyway. And we're going to take that notch back right to where we got it and slide that back through. And now we're back in business. Before I forget, I wanted to mention that the holster I was using throughout the review is this one here from Priority One Holsters. They do offer a discount for channel viewers, and just wanted to mention that before I forget. And it's happened before in the past, but this one here is made to work with the Safariland insert, so you can really put it on anything Safariland makes in terms of mounting, so chest rig, drop leg, anything like that, it will work with it. So I want to give you guys a quick size comparison and then talk about sort of modernization, if you will. So here, of course, we have our USP. We have our Glock 21 here, and in terms of size, it's very similar overall. The Glock's going to be a touch lighter, I do believe, but slide length, very similar, and then the grip length is going to be similar as well. Of course, if the Glock had a magazine in there, it would be similar. The Glock's going to give you one more round, though. And then here, the HK 45, which is the sort of modern version of this. You guys can see size-wise, it's pretty much identical there in the grip, and the same thing overall in the slide. It's pretty much identical. It's just a little bit more rounded off there. So I think one question a lot of people have is why today would you buy rather a USP when the HK 45s are out there? So there's definitely advantages to the 45. It has a 1913 rail. A lot of people are going to find the grip more ergonomic. I don't disagree with that. You can switch out the size of some of the pieces here on the grip to fit it better to your hand. It also, a downside of it is that it only has 10 round mags versus the 12 round here that are standard on the USP. Of course, the USP, they do have 10 round mags for it as well if you guys want that. There's a few things. Number one, the USP is about as proven of a pistol as really there is on the planet through testing. So the USP45 in particular uses the same operating system as the Mark 23. So the Mark 23, for those that don't know, was made for SOCOM trials. And basically they put 30,000 45 ACP plus P rounds through it. And then after that fired 6,000 proof rounds, which is even hotter than 45 plus P, and inspected it, and the pistol was still good to go. No frame cracking, no slide cracking, no nothing. So in terms of durability, the USP really has proven itself over the years, and a lot of competition shooters will say the same. A lot of soldiers from various armies around the world will say the same. It's just a very, very proven pistol. The HK45 is getting there. It just doesn't have as long of a track record, of course, but still a very good gun. And basically uses the same system. And another thing too is that the USP, as far as I know, is on the California approved roster, and I know a lot of people really like that here in America. A lot of departments have tested out the USPs over the years, so they're on their approved list for officers. So there just are some advantages to being a proven design, which the USP certainly is. However, again, the HK45 is a great gun. I have actually a couple of these simply because I like them so much, so they're great as well. There's just pros and cons to each. We covered most of the details of the pistol so far, but a few other points I sort of want to make is number one, reliability. We talked about it's eating everything we've thrown at it. We've got about 2,000 rounds through it, and no issues at all. It just keeps on trucking. The accuracy is very good as well. I've not benched this pistol, however, I have shot it offhand up to 50 yards, and it's pretty easy to do, particularly in the single action mode. It shoots just about everything well, which is nice. Even some of the cheaper ammo out there, it still shoots it pretty well. So Accuracy is very good, particularly for the balance of reliability that you get with it. You know, a lot of pistols, particularly at the time this gun came out, the ones that were more reliable were less accurate. The ones that were less accurate, generally speaking, were more reliable. And if you wanted to increase accuracy, you were just sort of taking a risk, if you will, in terms of reliability. Nowadays, of course, that's not really the case, but with the USP, it never was either. So some cons of it is going to be the double action trigger pull. It's certainly not good. You can alleviate that with the LEM models. And another con of it, of course, is going to be price. HK is very proud of themselves and proud of what they produce, and they charge accordingly. So if you look around right now, I checked today of what these are going for, and I think it's like $899, $900-ish for most of them, so it's certainly not cheap. And there are other 45 caliber pistols out there that are very good out there on the market. The Glock 21 is an excellent pistol. The SIG 227 is a good pistol, so there are other options out there. And it's expensive, so it's not, of course, for everybody, but there are just a lot of people that have a lot of faith, I guess you could say, in the HK USP design. I'm one of them. I feel very comfortable with the USPs. If I were to have a pistol in a gunfight, USPs would be something that I'd be very comfortable in my hands. I would definitely have a good feeling that it would work. So that certainly is a good thing. Other than that, I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to do. If you guys have any questions about the pistol, you can always post down below in the comments section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed and you like what you saw, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see all of you in the next video.